Hello and welcome to another edition of Cooking on the Fly. I'm your host, Awesome Lawson, and in today's episode we have our first guest cook, very special guest, at least for me. And so from the great state of North Carolina, we're going to take a visit to my brother Ed's place and learn how to make jalapeno cornbread. Let's go visit Ed in his kitchen.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make some jalapeno cornbread.
Okay.
And it's real simple. This time I bought diced jalapeno. Let's see, I got it right here on the counter. It's pre-diced. I don't even have to dice it. From the looks of it, there's not a lot of seeds in it, so I'd say it's probably not real hot anyway.
Okay.
I don't try to make it blistering hot. I try to make it just to enhance the dish. So the first thing we're going to do is cut our oven up. I usually start out around 425. Some people flip out about 425, but I'll tell you what, let's do 400 because I'm going to try something different today. I'm using bacon grease instead of a vegetable oil. And I don't know what the stability is on the bacon grease, and I don't want to scorch it. So we'll err on the side of caution. It's a special occasion. The family's getting together to have a meal, and we want to make it yum yum. So that's what we're shooting for.
Cook it in cast iron?
Yep, it's a cast iron. It's an old Griswold pan. Throw your grease in it. If you're using vegetable oil, just less is probably better.
Mm-hmm.
Less is probably better because I tend to put maybe a quarter cup in a pan, and some people flip out. I like to use grease in my cornbread, man. I don't want it sticking, you know.
That's the thing.
So I go ahead and I get my pan hot. Usually you would wait for your oven to come up to temp, but what I tend to do on this particular stove is when I turn it on, I stick the pan in there. When the oven's at temp, so's the frying pan. So, or it should be pretty quick thereafter. Now I'm going to get some a bowl to mix this stuff in. Okay, I do not measure this. I just wing it. It's more about a consistency than a measurement. This is my regular pan that I use, so I know about what it takes to make a cake that I like. If you like it real crisp, you could make it thin, and it'll get crisp for you. If you like it cakey, and when I say that, I mean more like fluffed up like a cake. You can add a little flour to it, and it'll make it more of a cakey consistency. This is self-rising yellow cornmeal. It's water ground style. It's what we grew up eating. It's what I use. Different ones yield different textures in the cornbread. Play around with it, find one you like. There's no wrong answer. The biggest thing is get the self-rising so you don't have to add baking powder and baking soda. Problem solved. I'm going to do an egg. Sometimes I use buttermilk in this, sometimes I will not. It mainly depends on what I have and the urgency to use it. I don't like to waste stuff. So today we're using milk. And again, it's just a consistency thing. Some people might want to add a little salt or a little pepper. Instead of jalapenos, you could add some whole kernel corn. It's a tasty way to go, you know. And again, it's kind of like a pot pie. There's no wrong way. You know, you put what you like in it, what you want to eat.
Okay.
And it's good. You know, I mean, if you can dream it and you like it, you're the one eating it. So.
Are you done with that milk, Chuck?
Yes, I am. I'm going to. I put a little bit too much milk in it, so I'm just going to put a little bit of flour at the time in it, or a little bit of cornmeal at the time, and bring it back to a consistency that I like. I have one egg and added milk, and I want to try to show you the consistency.
Tilt forward. There you go.
And it's loose, but it does have some body. And the reason I do that is when I get ready to pour this in that pan that's preheating, I'll let this sit, and it will it'll thicken up some as it sits, waiting on the pan.
Okay. Say that again now. You do what? With that
I'll make the consistency a little loose as I showed, and I'm gonna let this sit here while the pan's heating.
Right.
And as it sits, it'll rise some, and it'll thicken a little bit.
Okay.
So don't worry, it's just, don't be afraid to play with it. It's cooking. You're supposed to have fun when you cook.
That's right.
If you're not having fun, then you're probably starving to death. It ain't good. One thing I wanted to be sure to mention is, when I used the bacon grease, I didn't get any of the solids in the pan. These will smoke. They'll bring the smoke on quick. I just used the upper layers of the grease for the flavor. Yes, this tastes good, and if you're making a sauce or something, wonderful. But for this application, try not to use the bits. And again, I'm winging it. I'm cooking on the fly. I'm going to check it and just see if my grease has hit a smoke point, because I don't know exactly where it is on bacon. So I'm checking it, and you should do the same thing. Okay, just open the jalapenos, and all I'm going to do is I want to try to get the jalapenos. I want some juice in it, but I don't want it to be so daggone hot that nobody enjoys it. Some people do enjoy really spicy foods. I like somewhat spicy, but if it makes you want to drink something right away, it's probably a little too spicy for my taste. My pan it's heating up. I'm waiting on it to beep. I need a spoon, and I'm going to try to use a spoon with holes in it to lose some of the juice. Again, I don't want to get too hot. Everybody that'll probably eat this likes it fairly warm, but I talked about it sitting, and the consistency's starting to tighten up already. So, while your pan's heating up, there's no hurry in none of this. The big play time is when the timer goes off. When the timer goes off, be sure to use something to hold the hot pan with, because she should be at 400 degrees.
Would you say that by preheating the pan like that, when you pour that mixture in there, it starts cooking right away, and that helps it not to stick to the pan?
That's what makes your crust. That hot grease in that pan.
Right.
See, when the pan gets hot, it opens the pores. When it opens the pores, the grease gets in the pan.
Right.
That's what stops it from sticking.
Okay.
So, and then the rest of the grease that's unused by the pan, yum yum, ends up in your cornbread. So, good for flavor, not cardiologist recommended.
We didn't say it was a healthy.
Of course, we didn't invite one to supper, no way, so it'd be all right.
Oh, there's the timer.
There's the beeper. So, I opened the door timer too. I want to give it just one more minute, and we're gonna. I can do this. I go ahead and finish prepping this. I'm gonna put some jalapenos in there, and I just let it naturally fall out of the juice. Let the juice fall away from it. I'm probably gonna use the equivalent, close to 2 tablespoons. Mix it thoroughly. And my brother-in-law, Don, he loves this stuff, and my wife actually doesn't eat cornbread, so when I cook it, Don's my phone call. I make sure that all of it gets heat up and doesn't go to waste. Okay, here we go. Again, the pan's hot. You won't have to be told but once. When you go to pull it out, don't go snatching and jerking, because there is loose, hot grease in the pan.
Good tip.
Try to set it on a level surface. You don't have to be crazy about it, but close is good. Pour it in, and once you start pouring, just keep right on pouring.
And it's already starting to cook. I'm going to try to...
Yeah, I've got a good sizzle going in. I've got a good sizzle. timer. I'm going to give her 20 minutes, all right?
And that little bit of oil that's on the top, that doesn't hurt anything.
It'll go into the cornbread.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're going to try to, when you go to put it in there, if you want to try to play with it just a little bit so it'll come out nice and level, you know. A lot of people don't think about this when they cook the cornbread, but the bottom becomes the top. Because you flip it out of the pan into a plate, you're looking at the bottom of the cornbread. So you do want a nice crust. That's what everybody's going to see, you know, unless you turn it back over.
How long is that going to go for?
20 minutes. And you're allowed to peak. I wouldn't even start peaking until about 18 minutes.
Okay.
It may run a little long. Sometimes I cook at 425. Sometimes I cook at 400. I think it's 425 for 20 minutes or 400 for 25 minutes.
Okay.
But, you know, the biggest thing with the kitchen is don't be scared of it. You know, my mother once told me, she said, son, I may not get you married off, but I can keep you from starving to death. So, Mama, there's my tribute to you. I'm fat and happy and married.
And eating good cornbread.
Eating real good cornbread, Mama. There's very little cleanup. Go ahead and rinse everything so it don't get all caked up, you know. I like to clean as I go. It just makes the end of the job better when you sit down and you're not looking at a disastrous sink. But we'll come check you back in about 20 minutes. And might check in a little early just so you can get a peek at the cornbread and see what it's like just before it gets done. If the crust does form good, which that one seemed to have. If you just want a crispier crust on the top, which will become your bottom when you flip it, you can go to broil at the end stage. Don't leave the stove if you go to broil. You stay right there with it because you'll burn that cornbread before you can say hot bread. So just stay with it and it'll treat you good at supper time. Okay, so we're waiting on the timer to go off. The 20 minutes is about elapsed. Cornbread is looking absolutely perfect. There's 1 minute left, so instead of giving you a peek, I'm just going to let it go the minute, and you can see the finished product in just a minute. I don't foresee it burning because it's...
I'll just leave it running. Did you want to talk about the plate or anything?
Okay, the plate, I like to use one that fits outside of the frying pan so that when I have the frying pan here, I put the plate over it, and then I take the whole thing and turn it over, and you may see me go and tap it a little bit to loosen it. If a piece sticks to the pan that comes out of the what ends up being your top for your cornbread, just scrape it loose with a spatula and put it back where it belongs. Whoever gets that slice of cornbread will be glad you put it back because the crunchy is real good. Okay, there's our timer. I'm going to cut that off and kill the timer. And what you're looking for is something like that. Woo! She's plenty warm. 400 degrees ain't a joke. I can hear it trying to turn loose from the pan when I shake it. All the oil has been absorbed. I lay this over the pan, flip it right on over. Look at how I'm doing the pan. If there was any grease going to run out, it would run away from my hand down at the far end of the pan so that you don't burn your hand with 400 degree grease, okay? That's real important that you do that. Okay? There it is.
Wow.
And the bottom has become the top, and you see how it's just beautifully yummy.
Show us the pan there.
This pan was my mother's pan. I never cooked nothing in it but cornbread. I used to use it for cooking, and I eventually came to understand and appreciate how a seasoned pan should be treated. That's due to my brother Lawson. He gave me the once over about his pan, and I caught on. So I leave the grease in it. If you want to loosen up that little bit of stuff that's on it, once the oven cools, stick it right back in there. I will take a paper towel and wipe it out good before I use it again. But the grease on that cast iron is your friend. So less is more on that. Don't ever scrub your frying pan, your cast iron frying pan, if you're using it for cornbread. We're going to slice this out and let Lawson have the first piece and see what he thinks about it. Now there is nothing better than a piping hot piece of cornbread. There you go, brother. All right. So now it is piping hot. Remember, it come out of the stove at 400 degrees. So
okay.
If you want to pinch a piece off or whatever floats your boat.
I'm a man's man.
Right.
I won't do it over top of it though. Except drool. Yeah. That is so fucking good.
Right.
And
Right.
So fucking cool productions too, but
Right.
that is so fucking good.
Well, and there's no need to be scared of it at all. It's very simple. I mean,
Well,
you just saw it, go through it step by step, you can do it.
It's light. I mean, it's not dense. You know, I mean, I can see there.
Yeah, it's a little, I call that cakey. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like cake.
It's light and airy, and it's delicious. And I mean, you slap some butter on that. I mean, it doesn't need butter, but you slap some butter on it, and that butter doesn't stand a chance. Man, I love you.
Right. Right. Well, if you when you go to buy your cornmeal, if you buy the more rustic cornmeal, it probably won't rise as much. It'll be thinner and crispier. Some people like a very crispy, almost fried cornbread. And that's how you can achieve that. And you can adjust with whatever you have. If you want more cake to it, put a little flour to it. It'll do the trick.
Well, the jalapenos, the heat is just noticeable. It's not overwhelming.
It's an accoutrement.
It's an accoutrement. There's a bit of a sweetness to it, actually. What's that from?
Probably the milk. I use sweet milk.
Okay. And like you were saying earlier, if you did corn as well, that would infuse even more sweetness into it.
Now you could do what...
But what my point is, typically I don't care much for just regular cornbread because it doesn't have those things. It's like you said, some people like it thinner, denser. I don't. This is excellent, excellent. I encourage all of y'all to try this. Just follow the simple steps and my brother Ed's recommendations. I'm going to try it. I've never made cornbread like this. I'll do the Jiffy mix, and it always sticks in the pan.
Yeah, wow.
I'm never happy at the end of that, and this is...
The sugar will make it stick. I don't ever add sugar to mine. If I wanted sweet cornbread, I would buy a Jiffy mix. You know, that's just the way I roll, hanging out here at Sofa King Productions.
Sofa King cool. Anyway, I'd like to thank my brother for being my first guest up here, first guest on the show. Excellent job, excellent cornbread. Get out there and try it. This has been Cooking on the Fly with Awesome Lawson and my brother Ed. Thanks for watching. Eat well.